I literally like schlepped to find a place that wasn't windy because I'm outdoors. If I go to my car, I don't have any reception where the car is parked and I can't move the car. A, because there's nowhere to put it, and B, because like I'm not on the insurance or anything. Like God, like
Lily,
I have 2 days left of this trip.
Lily, you have a podcast.
I know, which is why I like hiked up a mountain. I'm like sitting on the side of the road.
I know, I just heard a car drive by. That's amazing. Welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast, where you join me and my sisters to talk about things that we like, which is mostly movie and television, but we also talk about some other stuff too. And with that, I welcome my sister Becky. Becky, how you doing?
Wait, I need to ask Becky something right away before I forget.
Yeah, and that's Lily.
Is Shai a candidate to be one of those SMR people that you love?
Not for me.
No, I don't mean for you, just objectively. That was a very buttery voice.
Maybe if like buttery is people's thing.
I don't like smack my lips and whisper about. I've heard some of those ASMR videos, and like half of them are just like you trying to make an appointment with someone, and that makes me very anxious.
Yeah, no, it's like
Becky told me one about this lady unloading her shopping bag. It was amazing.
Just this woman telling you about all the things she buys at the grocery store.
Yeah. Oh my God, I loved it.
Very relaxing.
You
know what it is? It's like mundane things that make you sleepy. So like sometimes when you're waiting in like a doctor's office for like 100 years and someone is just checking someone in, you're kind of half listening and then you get sleepier and sleepier and you just kind of like fall asleep in the chair waiting for your turn. It's like that kind of stuff too.
How many times have you, I can't tell you how many times I have gone full snoring in a doctor's office in my lifetime.
Really?
Waiting for, like they'll just, like I'll just be like head back, gagging.
So it's like the background noise you might hear in like a public space that like lulls you to sleep.
My equivalent of ASMR is the What Culture Wrestling video vignettes with these British guys who talk about wrestling. Just they give like not even weekly. They put out like 3 or 4 videos a day, and it just immediately knocks me out.
Lily, what did I tell you? I said I am to ASMR videos, which Shai is to wrestling videos.
You did say that. That was actually something you did say.
Well, speaking of videos, this was a big week because Disney had its big Disney 23. I don't even know why it's called that. Like, there are certain things where I don't know what other people do know the answer, but I'm just not going to research because I'm confident people who need to know already know. But they're having their big thing this week, of which there has been a major cloud over it because of the Spider-Man issue, which we'll get to in a moment. But more importantly, they have released the Mandalorian trailer. And I was just doing a little bit of internet research, and I was on this dude, Mike Zero's webpage.
Research, Shai.
Yeah, Mike. Well, his name is Mike Zero. YouTube subscription page, Zeroh. I mean, the guy's got 139,000 views since yesterday. And so Mike Zero reports that Star Wars has delayed the Rise of Skywalker trailer to focus on the Mandalorian trailer. So I'm adding that as extra context to the Mandalorian trailer, which is the new show on the Disney Plus service that people are hyping up. Jon Favreau did the pilot, and I think he's overseeing it. And it tracks a bounty hunter who wears a Mandalorian outfit, which is essentially like a Boba Fett type outfit. And there's a lot of shooting and stuff about bounty hunting in the commercial. And I believe many years ago, when they were talking about doing a Star Wars live action show, they were talking about doing something focused on the underworld. So I do wonder if this is the logical continuation of that. Anyways, Lily and Becky, have you seen the Mandalorian trailer?
No, I feel like you didn't text it to me, so I wouldn't have known.
Lily 100% sent it to us.
When?
Lily, didn't you send it?
I did. I did send it, and you wrote back, "We must discuss this."
Yeah.
So watch it quickly.
Yeah, I mean, watch it while Lily starts. Yeah, you can.
I'll tell you this,
watch
there
it.
are no words in it. I mean, it makes no sense to me. So I don't.
So
know
what do you
if
think it's
good or
about? What
bad.
is your pitch imperfect for the Mandalorian, Lily?
Oh my god, I could not. I literally could not tell you. It looked like there was like some kind of samurai sword robot in the trailer that looked interesting.
Are you talking about IG-88, the tall, skinny robot?
Yes.
That was in Empire Strikes Back? That was an
Sure,
interesting part of the
one.
trailer.
That was an interesting part. There was a young mother cuddling a daughter/younger sister that looked interesting and maybe sad. Don't know if that's any sort of character in the show. The bounty hunter character looked cool. I think Pascal, what's his name? From Oberyn. Let's just call him Oberyn forever. I think is he in it? I feel like he's promoting it a lot on his Instagram. So
is he?
That's exciting.
Oh, really? I thought maybe Diego Luna was going to appear in it.
Wouldn't that not make sense since he's a character in the Rogue One? Right?
Oh, yeah, but I thought maybe this, depending on when this
dies?
depending on when this takes place. I don't know when this takes place.
Like exactly. Like in my head, I'm like, it's a at this point, this trailer's too vague for me. Like. At this point,
Here,
it's gonna be
my
Oh my god, guys, how are you not talking about the fact that Werner Herzog is in this and he's the one that says bounty hunting is a complicated profession?
Wait, that was Werner Herzog? I totally thought it was Stellan Skarsgård.
No, it's Werner Herzog, like super famous documentary filmmaker that like pops up in all sorts of random stuff as the creepy guy.
Huh.
And he's the villain, apparently.
Oh my god, that's amazing! I need to see this. That's gonna be amazing.
Okay, so
It's
Becky,
also
what
so
is your pitch imperfect about what this is about?
Obviously, so he's a bounty hunter, right? So we know that. So who's hiring him? Who's paying him? And it has to do with somebody trying to kill stormtroopers, and he's being, he's obviously has to do something with I don't think the bounty hunter is going to be either a good guy or a bad guy. Maybe a bad good guy, or the Mandalorian, whoever we're following here, or maybe it's multiple bounty hunters. I don't know the answer to that, but obviously someone is paying them, whether it's for like good or bad reasons or whatever it is, to track down and kill stormtroopers or track down and kill what are they? The Empire people, whatever, the bad guys. I don't know.
No, the bounty hunter. I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's to me, it is a little bit of a Clint Eastwood vibe, like the man with no name, like the Mandalorian doesn't take his hat off. But it also, to me, my issue with this in general is they've basically made a show out of a costume that people think is really cool. Well, and I'm going to have a hard time signing on to this. Oh, yeah.
Shows have been made for less.
No. That's true. One. Also, but if we don't see behind the costume and learn who the character is and get their character development, it won't hold. It doesn't matter how cool the rest of the world is. You need to be behind a character, even if they're not a total good guy, even if they're like a bad good guy or a complicated hero that you're following, or they're part of, like, you still need to be invested in someone. So we'll have to get behind the costume in order for this, I think, for it to hold. But I could see them playing into the mystery of what is behind the costume. Also, how do we know it's just one person?
I don't know, but
is Werner Herzog the bad guy, or is
the Mandalorian is Pascal? Is Oberyn is the Mandalorian?
Oh my god, guys, this is gonna be so good.
Oh, he is? Oh, now I'm gonna like this. Here I am kvetching about it, but I'm like,
yeah, you're gonna like it if it has him, and plus, like, you put Herzog in him, like, that's gonna be weird.
I literally, when you keep saying Herzog, I keep thinking of Baron de Herzog kosher wine. I have no idea who you're talking about.
I mean, I didn't Google it. I heard the voice. As soon as I heard the voice, I go, oh, that's Werner Herzog's voice.
Well, okay, so another show.
I think he's only in one episode, so I don't know if he's like the main bad guy villain. Might be a cameo.
Like, that's enough to hook me in.
Another show that is going to happen that they announced is that Ewan McGregor is going to reprise his role as Obi-Wan in an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Now that is what the galaxy needed.
Was he a good Obi-Wan? Let's just stop for a second.
He is.
Was he?
Yes. In fact, aside from the original Obi-Wan, all of the later Obi-Wan work like that they've done in the animated series, which has been really, really good, the expansion of his story has all been based on the Ewan McGregor portrayal. I think he's terrific as Obi-Wan, and I think if they give him a series and they can really dive deep into that character, and they can hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about him in The Rise of Skywalker or something like that, and we'll be able to really explore what the heck Obi-Wan was doing all those years. I mean, you're talking about one of the top Jedis.
Yeah, I just was curious if you thought that Ewan was a good choice and
I'm ready
did a
to
good
bring
job.
him back. I miss him. Where's he been lately? You know?
Yeah, it's the one of all of the different spin-offs and nonsense they've made, this is the one fans have actually wanted, so I'm glad they got this.
So, question, are these things going to be all streaming on the Disney Channel, Disney Plus service?
On Disney Plus,
okay,
which we should just call the Disney Channel. I think we should stop calling it.
They deserve it. So, now between Mandalorian and an Obi-Wan show, but definitely just from the Mandalorian preview, I would subscribe to it just to see this, because if it has Pascal and Herzog showing up in the first one, I would like get in on the first season to see what it's about.
So the Mandalorian, to me, the show, the concept, everything like just irritates me. I have never actually. To me, Star Wars is always about the struggle between good and evil. All the times they try to make things cool by these like gray characters, it just doesn't work for me as much. So I'm not as excited. But you telling me your Pedro Pascal argument is a big argument for me to be into it. But Obi-Wan, 100% on board. 100%.
Right.
Lily.
Lily, what? You had me at Oberyn. I don't know what.
Okay.
And that tall ninja robot. Like, whatever.
I also think I also think bounty hunting is a complicated business. To me, that implies that the show will be about a struggle between good and evil. That it's not just about being paid for a job and executing it. That it's going to have some sort of like more complex.
You know, I wonder by the end of this. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I wonder if by the end of this season or whatever, we're going to be sitting here saying, did this need to be a Star Wars product? Like, is it just like, if it could just be a story, you know, like how much of the riding on the coattails of Boba Fett and the costume and the stormtroopers is necessary here?
That's how they're getting people to watch it. So, like, no, it's probably not like Star Wars.
That's how
they're getting people to buy into their.
I hope they make good content and not just ride on the laurels of like the entire Star Wars franchise, which is like what The Last Jedi was.
Don't you trust that if Favreau's like EPing this or something? Don't you trust that if he's doing it, he'll have some like fanboy integrity, or no?
No, not really.
I trust Favreau. I would say. Favreau is in the group of directors I trust not to ruin things. Like he's not J.J. Abrams level, but he is someone who has respect for the content, you know, especially with the work he's done in the Marvel universe. Now,
I feel like he has enough clout to be able to.
I mean,
fight for
things. J.J. Abrams could like parent my kid, but like I'd pretty much let him do, you know, be like a father figure. Like this guy, he can do anything. Favreau, sure, but I feel like he is really, he's great, but he's also by the book. Like I feel like when I'm reading article after article saying that The Lion King is basically shot for shot the cartoon, and they didn't take any risks and didn't do anything different, whereas Aladdin I thought was the opposite of that. I'm like, oh, whatever. He just can make a pretty movie. You know, he plays it safe.
Well, I guess it remains to be seen. Well, speaking of his connection to the Marvel Universe, we had another big controversy this week. Spider-Man, which is owned by Sony. I'm just going to explain this to you. The film rights to Spider-Man are owned by Sony.
Wait, can I just ask, like, how many... Is Becky with me? Or, like, how many people really care about this? It's like the Amazon is on fire. The world is ending. But, like, it's... I just need to know proportionally.
People care more about this than the Amazon being on fire.
Well, hold on. I'm not
Is this really that big of a deal?
I'm not as worked up about this.
It's quite interesting.
I'm not as worked up about this as I am, let's say, about The Last Jedi.
Oh, God.
Yes.
We know.
I was going to ask you if you were going to boycott the New York Times because they put it on the top 50 best movies on Netflix.
I
was like, oh no,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And I think in the end, it's just a bummer for the fans. I think that Disney went gangster by trying to ask for 50%, but there has to be a deal that can be made that can make both parties quite successful and that will enrich the narratives of both stories. So let's all
sum up, like, it's sort of like, is this right or wrong? There's Sony, who can't make content for the life of them. They happen to have the rights. Just wait. They happen to have the rights of this new amazing version or this character that has been created in this new great version that's successful and popular with Tom Holland. But technically, allowing him to participate is up to Disney, and they screwed the pooch on the fact that they tried to ask for more, and then Sony was like, fuck you guys, we don't need you. Although we don't know how to make a movie to save her life, we own this amazing character, and you're going to come and do what you need to get it. And Disney appears greedy and stupid, but Kevin Smith says that they're not, so we should just believe Kevin Smith.
So first of all, I often believe Kevin Smith. Well, the story is that Disney essentially made Sony, I wouldn't say $1 billion, but a lot of money on the box office, for which they only got, the Marvel Studios or whatever, only got 5%. They decided that since Spider-Man's about to helm the whole second half of the MCU, or the next phase of the MCU, that they were going to try to get a better deal. And they asked essentially for half of the box office, to make it simple. And Sony said, forget this.
And to be fair, they were going to do half of the expenses too, the production expenses.
Yeah, Marvel. I'm pretty sure Marvel and Disney paid for the movie to get made. Like Sony got an unbelievably sweet deal, so they could use Spider-Man. It ended up a huge success. Sony and Disney and Marvel wanted more money, and Disney and Marvel kind of went in like super heavy, and Sony just called their bluff essentially. But Sony does not have the capability of making a good movie with this, and so what would be really nice is if they would all just come to an agreement with their piles of money and make more money.
But part of this also requires Sony to understand that they can't make a good movie, and I don't think that they will understand that until they go and make a movie without Disney, and it turns into a big, steaming pile of shit.
Sony made the Spider-Verse.
But they have.
So we are big Spider-Verse lovers. Now, that was made entirely by Sony, as far as I understand, although unofficially.
That was 100% an accident. Like, that was for
one of the reasons it worked out is because it was happening so chaotically that there wasn't really enough time for good oversight, and so artists just got to go like wild and do whatever they want. So like the reason it worked out well is because there wasn't really anyone like properly overseeing it. That's like one of the things I read.
Oh, so Sony will ruin it when they make the next one.
Like the rumor being that the reason it was good is because they didn't have good control over it, and the artists were just kind of like able to like make what was ever in their minds and go totally wild. And they were like, well, I guess we have to get this out now. But like that was like listening to things I've like read and some rumors you hear.
That makes sense because
they weren't in control.
That makes
but as soon
sense.
as they're in control, it's garbage.
That makes sense because the first two Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are pretty good. I mean, they're not perfect. They have Kirsten Dunst in them, but even though they have her in them, they overcome that.
Yeah, but in like retrospect, you go back and you watch them, and you're like, "Are they that good?"
Well, they're good. They're good. But the third one, where the studio got totally involved and ruined it.
I feel like we thought they were good because we had nothing to compare them to.
That's what I'm saying. They were good at the time because it was like it was new, not because they're that good.
Okay.
Maybe the first one. Definitely not the second one.
So, Lily and Becky, will you keep watching Marvel movies if Spider-Man isn't in them?
I'm not as.
Would I have to? How would I start watching Marvel movies? If
Taika Waititi is directing them, I will watch them. But if he's not directing them and there's no Spider-Man, you're losing me.
He can also raise my children. Love that guy.
He's Jewish, so he really can.
He is Jewish.
Yeah, he's Polynesian Jewish. He's Polynesian Jewish.
No kidding.
Yeah, talks about it all the time.
His mom is Jewish, right? Mm-hmm. Or his dad, one of his parents.
Okay.
And he's Polynesian, and he's super cool. Wait, I need a snack, so you guys keep talking. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, Dad, one of our great listeners and influences, sent us an article that had the top 50 movies, according to the New York Times, available on Netflix right now. And I was going to just go through some of the list, and I'm just tell me if it is a top movie. Not that the top movies on Netflix. We all know Netflix is a garbage dump, so these might be the best movies on Netflix right now. But are these really? And that's what the article says: the best movies on Netflix right now. But would you qualify any of these movies as "quote unquote" best movies? Okay.
But that's the thing, is like, you have to be careful. That article is not calling these movies top movies. They're calling, or are they? They're saying, like, if you had a pile of shit, what's the nicest part of that pile?
I guess they are saying that, but they say we mentioned 50 more great movies on Netflix within. Okay, so yeah, so 50,
okay, no, they're calling these movies great, so that's on them.
they're calling these movies great. Okay, so I'm gonna just start rattling off the list, and you tell me buy, rent, or meh. Okay, this is like super speed buy, rent, or meh. All right.
Okay, done.
Are you taking notes?
No,
Why would I take notes? Don't I just have to
I'm
answer?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm in a field.
All right.
I can't
Everybody
take
who's
notes.
listening, play at home. The Dark Knight.
Bye.
Hi.
Meh.
What?
Yeah, I do
The
not. I think that
original,
movie
the
is.
first one?
I think The Dark Knight, not Batman Begins. I think The Dark Knight is the most overrated
Oh.
superhero of all time. I think.
Ah.
I mean, I'm going to say this will upset people. Heath Ledger's Joker is fine, but Mark Hamill's Joker.
Pretty great.
Mark Hamill's Joker is.
It's a cartoon, Shai. He does a voiceover for a cartoon. Oh no, or is he in the?
No.
Is
You're
he a
right.
cartoon?
Mark Hamill is the voice of the Joker, but I'm just saying that everyone makes a big deal
It's
about
not the
Heath.
same.
We're not going fast. We're officially not going
Okay,
fast.
Coco, bye.
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 Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Meh.
Bye.
Bleh.
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 Okay,
Bleh.
some
Shut up,
movie,
shut up.
some movie by the Coen brothers.
New York Times. You know there really is fake news. Shai, that's fake news. That's ridiculous.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Becky, I feel like
What? No one's ever heard of that movie. What is
I
that
hated
movie?
it. Meh.
it's the
Just
Coen
try-
brothers, right?
And I hated it. It's like the first Coen Brothers thing I've seen that I can't stand.
Really? Wow. Okay.
There's a few Coen brothers stink bombs.
All right.
They're out there.
No, just that one.
I'm 50-50 on the Coen brothers movies. Jackie Brown.
No, the Tom Hanks one is terrible. The guy that steals.
Oh my
we're
God.
not. We're not going fast,
Small Time Crooks. That movie is so bad.
guys.
That's Coen brothers.
I do really like Tom Hanks' accent in that movie. All right, Jackie Brown.
Never seen
Bye.
it.
Bye. Love Jackie Brown. Love Jackie
Never
Brown.
seen it.
In
Meh.
fact, I recently just bought
If
it.
it was that good, I would have seen it.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Who gives a
Nah,
shit? That's not
that title's too
going
long
in.
for a movie. No.
It's an animated movie that a lot of people like, that I've seen that I'm not that into, but Bruce Campbell is a voice in it, so it's at least a rent for me.
Okay, but it's so obvious that Netflix doesn't have any they can't get good animated features. Like they no longer have any Disney on there because that's what they had to put on besides Coco, who they still have currently, but they'll lose eventually.
All right, Groundhog Day.
Ever. Oh, bye.
Bye.
Buy 100 times over. Buy. That's true.
Yeah, that's an incredible movie. Okay, so how many buys do we have right now? Maybe 3 out of 10? 4 out of 10? Okay. Moonlight, which I actually have not seen yet, but I hear is terrific.
Oh,
What? Oh no, sorry. I thought
Moonstruck? You thought you were talking about Moonstruck?
yes.
I
Cher?
100% thought it.
I've seen
I
that.
hadn't seen it. I had to be like, you've definitely seen Moonstruck.
Moonlight, not
So
Moonstruck.
here's the thing about Moonlight. For me, it's a 2/3 buy, 1/3 meh.
Oh, okay, so it's like a rent.
It's like 3 stories. The first 2 stories are bye. The last one is like, really? That's how we're ending this? Okay, meh.
Okay, but we all agree that we would buy Moonstruck.
Yes, we would all buy Moonstruck.
That's the one where Nicolas Cage is like a hook hand,
And he has like one hand and he falls in love with Cher and yeah.
and Cher's like got. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a cool movie. All right,
Cher plays Cher.
all
I'm
the,
pretty sure she won an Oscar for that movie.
yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
All the President's Men.
Sure, whatever.
Rent? Because I haven't seen it yet.
So I feel like that's one of these great movies that none of us have. I know it's great. It's Redford and Dustin Hoffman. I've never watched the whole thing.
Let's rent it.
I've not watched the whole thing. That's my issue.
So
I've seen part of
having
it.
never seen it, I would rent it. I don't know that I'd outright just buy it.
That's fair. Okay, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think, is a buy.
Obviously, buy.
Taxi Driver, that is a bleh for me. I do not like that movie at all.
Not a huge fan. It's like I get it in theory, but I don't need to own it or see it out of university.
Becky, as a film person, explain me what is good about Taxi Driver. Because
never seen it.
Oh,
Never
really?
seen it.
So I need you to see it because
Becky, I'm pretty sure you should not admit that.
You know what? I have so many lies to keep track of right now. I'm not lying about what movies I've seen anymore. I have just too many lies to keep track of.
I will say I saw an interview though, quick, a little thing here. With Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie, and the interviewer was asking what like famous Hollywood film had they not seen that like they were supposed to have seen, and Brad Pitt goes Gone, like Brad Pitt says Gone with the Wind, and everybody's like, what? Like, how could you not see that? And he's like, you know what? I've made it this far. I'm good. Like, I don't need to see that movie. He wasn't like, I know, I should see it. He was like, no, I've made it this far. I'm gonna go all the way. I'm going all the way. I'm not watching that movie.
Download Taxi Driver onto my phone from Netflix download, and I kept it there and then never watched it. So I did come.
Why would you watch that movie on your phone?
I would like Becky to watch that movie and explain to me as a filmmaker what the significance of that movie is. Okay, next on the list from 1975. I feel like we're performing a real service for people by reading this list to them. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh.
Never saw it.
That is really funny, though.
It's classic. It's funny.
But I think Life of Brian is funnier.
I'm with you.
A Life of Brian person. So for me, I'd probably rent Holy Grail and buy Life of Brian.
Oh, so it looks like Life of Brian is there also. To me, I think Life of Brian is like a brilliant movie. Really subversive, really funny, and that's a better one.
Yeah, I agree.
Note to self, I'll be writing that down. You're also only reading this for like you American fans, not for Canadians or Spaniards.
Okay, so I'm gonna knock out a few movies in a row that I'm not sure any of us want to see. Roma, The Third Man.
Hey, I saw Roma. Which one's The Third Man?
That's from 1950.
No, I saw Roma.
Oh, okay.
First half mess, second half.
Wait, didn't you fall asleep?
Yeah, no, the first half is so boring. I fell asleep, woke up, left the theater, went home, and then 2 weeks later finished watching it on Netflix because I felt like I should. And the second half is incredible, but the first half is so boring.
All right. How about this one? The original Gremlins.
Oh, I just recently rewatched it. I rewatched it a few years ago.
How crazy is that movie?
That movie is insane for sure. It is so dark and weird, and it would like never get made now.
It's like so. It is the definition of horror comedy. I never realized how twisted that movie is.
Than the second one. Way grosser and creepier and scarier than the second one. Definitely buy.
All right, now I'll knock out a few more. Boyhood, The Witch, and Pulp Fiction.
The Witch is the worst. The Witch is the worst movie I've ever seen.
Really?
So
the worst movie you've ever seen?
Yeah, it's up there with it's. So good luck if you want to watch it. I'm curious what you think. It's the worst.
I mean, I feel like this is a public service we are providing people right now.
Pulp Fiction is amazing, and Boyhood was cool to watch it once. It's like a feat of cinema, like what they did, made over 12 years, right? And I thought that was very interesting and has a lot of beauty to it, but I could watch it once and that's it. That's
I feel like with Boyhood, I've heard people talk about it so much, I don't need to see it. I can just talk about it as if I've seen it because it's all people talked about for like 3 months when it came out. So.
Okay. Yeah, I have no interest. I mean,
I'm seeing that.
Pulp Fiction's a buy. I own it. I love it. I have no interest in those other movies. Okay, here's one with Emma Roberts called The Blackcoat's Daughter. And then they've got Room with Brie Larson, for which she won an Oscar. And then they've got something called Private Life that's got Catherine Hahn and Paul Giamatti.
Oh, yeah. That I'd really want to see. I would totally rent that. That looks very depressing. Listen, I don't mean to knock Emma Roberts. She seems like a very sweet girl. But if you tell me she's in a movie, I'm probably going to assume it's not good.
I like Emma Roberts.
I feel like
too.
I feel like she
But I'm
does not look like a sweet girl, even though I like her.
I think she's great,
She
but
does
I
not give sweet girl vibes. She's like, my family's famous. I'm gorgeous. Fuck you people. That's the vibe I get from her. But I like her.
Emma Roberts gets cast in a lot of movies that are like bad to mediocre. And so based on her track record, if I saw, Emma Roberts is in a movie, skip it. She seems nice, but I don't think it's going to be a good movie.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll keep going here. In Bruges.
That's awesome. That's great.
That's a super cool movie.
That's a great movie.
Solid
rent.
Although that guy made Seven Psychopaths, which I liked a lot more.
He's pretty good. Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we've got something called My Happy Family about a Georgian woman who, I don't know, this looks very depressing. About a lady who moves out of her family's house. Then Blackfish, which I know you're a big fan of.
That's a good buy. That's a good buy.
Intense movie.
That's a good bandwagon movie. You don't have to see it, but you can still get behind it. It's very traumatic. Only time in 8 years, 10 years that I've known him, I've seen him cry was when he watched that movie.
A bandwagon movie. What a great term, Beck.
Yeah.
All right, something called A Separation.
Oh, what's that one?
That
foreign film.
It won an Oscar.
They are Iranian, Iraqi.
Yeah,
Iranian.
Really good. That is really good. That's
Iranian.
Totally worth seeing.
All right. Bonnie and Clyde. I've seen that. That's all right. That's a rent for me.
That's okay.
I feel like I've read a lot about the historical inaccuracies, and I'm not really sure.
So now we're getting into a stretch because the New York Times has just listed Justin Timberlake and the Tennessee Kids, an actual just live video of one of his concerts.
Oh God! They were like, shit. 50. It's a nice round number. We can't put 47.
I'm
Justin Timberlake up in there.
The actual concert I went to of his, so I don't think I'm going to then be persuaded to watch one on video.
So I'm skipping around the list now, but there's one called 13th, which in my view, if 13th is going to be on this, Ava DuVernay, brilliant movie, I've seen it, terrific. I personally thought The Return was a more personalized and intense film, and Becky was one of the producers on that film.
We're just not famous as Ava DuVernay, so,
I mean, you're not as famous. I mean, look, the 13th is a powerful movie, and and I learned a lot from it. But The Return, which is also streaming on Netflix, right, Beck?
Not anymore. Is it?
Well, when it was. My point is The Return, to me, put a much more individual face on a different angle on a similar story about mass incarceration, and the 13th was more powerful to me. Sorry, no, I'm The Return. Deliverance. Becky, didn't you watch that at a sleepover once or something like that?
That movie. I never need to see it. No one ever needs to see that movie. That is not a movie people need to see. No, thank you. Meh. I hate that movie, and I don't know.
But didn't one of you watch it on at a sleepover?
I was 10 years old. Sleepover. No, I was 10 years old, and Mom and Anucha were going out for a girls' night, and so Alan Pinchuk was babysitting me and Brandon, and we went to the video store to rent movies, and Brandon and I picked out Richie Rich because we were 10 to watch with Macaulay Culkin. Great movie.
I like that movie. That movie's underrated.
Alan Pictures this is a really great movie too. You guys should watch this. And then he put Deliverance on for us because he didn't remember what the movie was actually about. And there, Brandon and I watching Deliverance, horrified.
Did he think it was a comedy?
He didn't remember. He was this is an adventure movie about guys going on a canoe trip or something.
Wasn't there that canoe comedy
Without a Paddle?
Without a Paddle, yeah. Do you think it was that?
I don't know.
That's way later.
Right. So there's a bunch of classics. There's a bunch of classics they go through, like Schindler's List and Platoon, great movies. But then there's a gem that I think people should check out. 20th Century Women, I thought was a terrific movie.
So good. The movie is that is a huge buy.
You always have a curveball.
That's a huge buy. Yeah.
I love that director so much. Have you seen Beginnings? His first movie?
Beginners.
Beginners.
It's really
about his dad, and 20th Century Women is about his mom and his upbringing.
Yeah.
I highly recommend Beginners.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll leave people can go and look at the rest of the list. because it gets a little more sort of typical. Although for Allie, she should know that number 50 on the list is the original Magic Mike.
Oh, and I will say I'm looking here. Winter's Bone is on it. Winter's Bone is like really, I truly love that movie. That is a huge buy for me. That is like one of the movies where I became obsessed with. John Hawkes is in that movie. It is so good. If you ever like wonder, like, is Jennifer Lawrence that good of an actor? Watch this movie. She really, really is.
That's awesome.
And it's so good. Anyway, I think that's always worth watching.
That's great. All right, so there, everybody, our Netflix picks from this bizarre list from the New York Times, and thank you, Dad, for sending it to us. Dad always is staying on top of cool movie things for us. All right, now the big show we watched that we're going to break down is The Boys. We all finished the first season, and let's just go with overall reactions to this show. Beck.
Despite its failings in certain places, I thought it was totally watchable, super fun and engaging, and something that my husband was willing to watch with me. So it gets like massive bonus points that like wasn't an HBO drama. So, you know, I was very excited. Yeah, I honestly, I really don't think it's a perfect show. There's definitely some problems with it, but it was really fun.
Okay, cool. All right.
I watched season 2.
Well, we'll break that down in a moment. Lily.
You're on mute. Lily.
Sorry. I thought that was a lot of fun. By no means perfect, like Becky said, but it was a lot of fun. Again, something I could watch with my husband that I wasn't terrified to see, and it was
and it had enough
great.
enough serious gore that your husband probably was happy.
Oh yeah, he was like, this is just like my base limit of what I'm consider is appropriate amount of gore.
Right, at least one person's head gets like mangled or burned,
exploded. Yeah,
in each
I'll
very
say that, like, I love all the actors, so that like I like all the characters, like all the actors. The story sometimes, you know, I think they need to tighten it up a bit, but besides, it's a bit like there's a lot of points where it's a little bit repetitive, you know. But I love the characters, and the ones that do evolve are great, and I love the actors. I love the actor from Banter, the guy that plays Homelander. He's fantastic. I think it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see a second season. Are we going to do spoilers or just warn people that there's spoilers?
Yeah, okay. Time for spoilers. The Boys. It's a show about what if superheroes were real and the military-industrial complex that would be around them and the politics around them. And it stars Elizabeth Shue, Anthony Starr, Carl Urban, Jack Quaid, the son of Meg Ryan, and Dennis Quaid, as he should be referred to at all times, as well as an actress that I was not familiar with, but Erin Moriarty, who plays Starlight, who is, I think, she's good. She has to be very good for that show to work, and a few other cool actors. And so, yeah, all right, it's spoiler time. Why don't we start?
I'm super sad. Well, I'm just super sad that Elizabeth Shue's not going to be in it anymore.
But hold on, it means she's free for Karate Kid.
Yeah,
that means she's free for Cobra Kai. He's huge,
right.
And she makes back in the game.
And it means she has a quote for doing a streaming series.
Yeah, she's back in the game. She's letting us know she's here.
I also, like, I don't know if anybody picked up on this. I love how they make reference to the fact that she quit acting to play tennis. And when she's having, like, she's having a conversation with somebody and they're like, all right, something about your tennis arms. They make reference to it. I thought that was really funny. But I guess you have to be a huge Elizabeth Shue fan like myself to notice that.
Did she quit acting to play tennis professionally?
Not professionally, just to, like, dedicate her life to tennis.
Well, It helped her because she looks amazing, and she doesn't look like...
She does look amazing.
She does have great.
And she doesn't look, quote-unquote, young. Like, she looks whatever her age is, but she looks fantastic.
Yeah, she is gorge.
Like, to me, I'd love to see her in more stuff, because I actually think she was really, really... One of the things the show did really, really well that I liked is that they twist the angle. It was almost like you were looking at a funhouse mirror on each character at any given moment, and you'd think that one of them was totally bad, and then they'd shift the angle a little bit, and you'd be like, oh, they're not as bad as this other person, and they shift the angle again, and you're like, oh no, they're terrible. And I think they did that great with her character, because they lead you to believe often that she is really the evil behind a lot of what's happening, and what they really bring you at is that she is a corporate animal, but she's not trying to do things like make terrorist superheroes in order to justify her existence. That was stuff that
Which you thought that was 100% her.
Right, exactly.
Like,
Right, you
definitely
did.
Yeah.
They
So
definitely...
people like, there's a hard line for these characters, even if they're bad guys, which you don't often see.
The only one who really doesn't have a hard line yet is
Homelander,
who has a crazy...
He's pretty sure he's psychotic.
Yeah, he's a
psychopath.
He's a god complex, and what they reveal later in the show, of course, is that these guys were not, born the way the X-Men were born, but they were engineered, and that he, in particular, was raised in a lab setting, and is there. And what they talk about is that he was. There's a really interesting question about nature and nurture,
right?
And how you can engineer. Right. How he was engineered to be the superhuman, but he was raised essentially by scientists who were just treating him like an animal. And as a result, as the scientist who he tracks down and talks to at one point reveals, he became a kind of crazy, evil animal as a result.
Yeah, I mean, like, there was no parent, mother figure.
Right, and the people didn't treat him. You don't have to be raised by a parent to be a good person.
A woman.
They didn't.
Yeah. Or
the old...
Sort of loving...
The old guy from obviously the guy that retired, that was one of the scientists. He says our biggest mistake was raising you in a lab. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh no. They're trying to do Homelander 2.0.
Right.
Like, it's so clear they realize the mistake they made with him, and they're going to try and make a better version of him. So who's going to have the same powers as Homelander, but raised by a mom, raised conventionally.
Right.
So immediately, that was the test.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
I am sure. I know that it's obviously for plot issues, obviously for the story. But I find it's too much of a plot hole unless there's a good explanation. Why would Homelander save Butcher at the end?
Oh, to punish him.
Why does he?
To punish him. He saved Butcher so
Okay.
that Butcher could see not only that, because Butcher's,
they have a child together, and,
but on
that
top,
she's alive and all that.
Yeah, on top of that, Butcher's operating under this driven, crazy element of revenge. Homelander raped and then either killed or kidnapped his wife, who loved him. And the reality is that she willingly had an affair with Homelander. And
did she?
Did she though? I'm not convinced she willingly had an affair.
No,
I think she willingly had an affair. I think she was raped.
I think she was
kept the baby.
Yeah.
No,
is that video?
I don't think Homelander.
You think?
I don't think Homelander was lying. I think when Homelander says that she came on to him, I think that's part of the reveal at the end. Because if she really loved Billy, then she would have...
I did not pick up on that.
Yeah,
the video of her walking out of that office, she looks so distraught, but you think it's because she feels guilty. She can't believe she did that, as opposed to us thinking that she was raped.
Yeah, exactly. She was in there for... Yeah, because Homelander, I mean, he lies at different times, but he makes a point of saying that she came on to him, right? Which he didn't need to say. But to me, that's what flips all this on its head.
Well, it could be him just covering it up.
Yeah, which is that the wife cheated on him, accidentally got pregnant.
Which is more interesting.
And has been hiding from him. She could have told him that...
Well, right. I guess that would make it more plausible.
No, I don't think he had a choice.
Then she gets holed up with this. But I guess Becky's right. She could easily have not had a choice for well, we'll kill you or we'll kill Butcher if you don't hide away and raise this child because they're evil.
Yeah.
So she could have had no choice to save Butcher. She disappeared.
Maybe, but the face she made to him looked like a little bit of ooh, I'm so sorry I hurt your feelings, and less.
That'll be interesting to see
because I think
what her angle
Butcher,
is.
It's her sister too that thinks she's dead.
Yeah, but I think the
her
punishment,
mom and, her whole life.
I think the punishment to Butcher is not just, oh, your wife's alive and we kidnapped her, right? Because then it would just be that she's been kidnapped, right? Because he said she's either dead and kidnapped and she was raped. And what could be more painful for Butcher to find out than she cheated on him, she had a baby with this guy, and she's hiding and not telling him where she is while his life basically goes down the toilet.
Well, I don't think she has a choice about telling anyone because she would have told her mother and sister at the very least, and they're also thinking that she's.
I think they reasonably threatened her whole family because otherwise it makes no sense this character would choose to disappear.
Well, then
destroy her life.
Then maybe we find that out and
because then she doesn't even get Homelander. It's not like she was in love with him and then they get to be together and raise this kid. Like she has to live alone with this superhuman. So I have another character I want to ask about. How do you guys feel about the transition of when we first meet the Deep? He's basically like a misogynist, sexual assaulter, rapist. That's like pretty much our first interactions with him. And then over the course of the season, they're trying to like make him sympathetic and humanize, and bad things happen to him, and he gets taken advantage of, and like he gets like raped.
Just hate him. Like how?
Here's my view on the Deep. The Deep, to me, his bad behavior, in my view, should not, like, I mean, it might get forgiven if he really changes as a character, but he strikes me as like a dumb, entitled, like pretty boy superhero who's like a dummy. Like he tries to save the dolphin, and then in one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen,
oh my God,
he gets the dolphin run over by a truck, and then he goes to try to save the lobster.
That was amazing. I laughed so hard at that scene. That the dolphin thing was just. That was very well done.
It was, and to me, at the end, maybe as he's upset for being left out of the seven, maybe when he starts shaving his body hair and kind of redoing the scene from Pink Floyd's The Wall when the guy shaves everything off of himself, maybe he's going to go through some sort of cleansing, whatever. But at this point, he is not a good person or character.
Beck, I was talking to Shai about it yesterday, and he was like, it's as if James Franco had superpowers. Like, that's what he would end up being like in the seven.
Yeah, it's actually that's a really good one. But what kind of bothered me about the scene where then he gets assaulted, it's as if the producers of the show are going, see, now you can forgive him because the playing field is even. He assaulted someone, but then he got assaulted, so now he understands.
I would like to ask them about that, because that, to me,
I mean,
it didn't make me sympathetic to him.
I don't know. I don't think it's that straight. I don't think that's straightforward.
I think it is. I think it is. I think they're saying, see, now you're going to like his character, and we can make sure you like him because something bad happens back to him. So eye for an eye. And I like, it doesn't work that way, guys.
I think that's totally fair.
I don't think.
I'm not saying he can't grow and we can't learn to understand him better and he can't move on and we can't move on from that. I'm just saying that, like, I feel like they were trying to do a quick fix of like.
No, yeah. I don't think that they could expect you to like him because he's so dumb and like just so doesn't get it because of that one scene where he gets assaulted. I think like you're gonna have to really see a major change for anybody to give a shit about this character who's basically unredeemable.
Well, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I think the way they're trying to redeem him is by saying, see, he's not smart and conniving. He's just a sweet dummy who wants to help.
I don't think he's a sweet dummy. I think he's a dumb dummy who maybe will be helpful to the good guys later. But okay. I think what he's done,
right,
I think the way he's done
by accident.
Yeah, to me, he's like a pathetic loser. To me, he's like Mike Dexter in Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, I mean, maybe over a season or two he could be.
When Mike Dexter gets his comeuppance, we don't feel like all of a sudden like he's our good guy. We're like, yeah, you deserve that. Like, fuck you.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, so anyways, okay. so in general, I think one of the most important developments in the show is when you find out that these guys were not born and they were engineered, and that as babies, basically, they were all abused. And that, to me, was really important because until then, you're dealing with Butcher, who's this extremist who basically wants to kill all superheroes, no matter what they are. He doesn't trust any of them. Yeah. And then once you find out that they were basically babies that were experimented on, that allows you a heck of a lot more leeway to be with Jack Quaid's character Huey in like giving them a chance on a case by case basis, essentially. And and Starlight being the example is the perfect example of someone who still is good and wants to be good. All right,
and complicated is Maeve, who I feel like we're seeing her now. She started off good. She clearly went bad. And then now she's kind of working out if she can turn good again in her mind. And so
more than bad, I feel like complicit. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think she's inherently bad because she wanted to save the people from the plane. She's not a sociopath. She just became complicit and is stuck. But I think she's inherently a good person, unlike other characters who are bad or psychopaths.
I feel like you mix the words complacent and complicit into one
but
word.
I think she becomes both. But I think she becomes both. She sort of just becomes...
One word describes her both.
She becomes like an alcoholic and detached from her emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, to me, her character, in my view, ultimately has to sacrifice herself. I don't think she can make it through the series because she essentially was a party to Homelander killing hundreds of innocent people.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to break her eventually. I don't think she can just become a good guy and help.
No, I agree. But what will be interesting in season 2 is watching her go through that of, can I be good again? How do I redeem myself? And I think it will be a self-sacrifice. You're right. And
I think, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about A-Train, because I think A-Train is really an interesting character. He was a great villain.
I don't find him that interesting.
I don't find him that interesting. I find him kind of annoying.
I thought he was kind of... I thought he was kind of annoying.
He was a good villain. I really enjoyed when...
Invisible Man is more interesting, I think.
Oh, that guy's the creepiest. And Translucent. I really enjoyed, though. A-Train was such
film noir. What's the guy's name? Black Noir.
It's not interesting. We don't even know, like, give me something. I have nothing.
What does he do? I can't believe the entire season went by.
Rose Nye.
The entire season went by, and they didn't do anything with that character.
But that's okay with me, because that gives us more room to learn about that character. He's an assassin.
For sure.
I really enjoyed when Moncoeur, the young woman who they rescue, breaks A-Train's leg in half.
Miko.
I was because A-Train's character is so selfish and such a garbage person that he blames Huey for his girlfriend who he killed on purpose.
He murders.
He murdered.
No,
he murdered both of their girlfriends. He was such a selfish person. So that really bothered me. And what do you think now? What do you think about this observation that I have, which is that the show is called The Boys. The Boys, as at its more, which I wasn't sure if The Boys was the Boys Club of Superheroes or if The Boys was the actual heroes of the movie. It's the heroes of the movie that we're referring to, The Boys, which is MM, Frenchie, Butcher, and now Huey. What do you make of the fact that for a good part of the show, the bad superheroes are definitely men. The good heroes are men, although I would say, like, I would say 50-50 on the moral compass. But that the good superheroes that you see, Starlight, the Moncoeur, as I'm going to call her, and even
Kamiko,
because they don't list her as that they list her as just the female in IMDb.
Oh, interesting.
And then, like, that the good superheroes, like the ones that are truly good, are women.
Sometimes IMDb doesn't want to give away spoilers with the names of characters.
That's fair.
So sometimes IMDb lists people like generically because you don't know if you're looking up if that's going to actually be a character. And you didn't know if you were watching without knowing. When I finally realized, like, oh my God, they're going to have a superhero on their side who's a badass. That's so cool. But for until I realized it was a while. Where I was like, oh, what's going to happen with his character?
What do you make of a show that's called The Boys about superheroes where the good superheroes are all women? I think it's cool. I think it's a little bit on the nose at times, and I'd like to see who else is able to make a choice to be good.
What?
I said I'd like to see if any of the male superheroes make a choice to be good at some point.
Right.
Well, it doesn't look not looking good for them. The only one maybe is the Deep, who could maybe make a transformation, but I'm not ready to buy that.
Well, I have a theory, and I haven't read the. Well, they talk about Lamplighter having incinerated her family, Mallory's family. Do we know if Lamplighter did it, or is it possible that Homelander did it and Lamplighter...
Well, we don't know anything about Lamplighter. We know he retired. So there's another entire character that we know nothing about. And he may have quit because he was done with the bullshit. Like, who knows? So the way we don't know anything about Black Noir and we don't know anything about Lamplighter, there's room to, know more things. Can we please just for 1 second, I assume before we finish, talk about Haley Joel Osment?
Man.
Well, he was also in... Lily, did you watch Future Man? He was great in Future Man also.
No, I haven't. I don't have a way to watch Future Man. So I can't see it.
He's like one of the main supporting characters in Future Man, and I saw him pop up, and Vlad and I were like, yes, more Haley Joel. He's coming back. I want to see him in all my random streaming TV shows now.
And then he gets his head broken to bits. That was super gross.
He gets his head smashed in.
That was very murdery.
But he does sell out the boy.
So, all right.
What you get?
Let's quickly do MVP, LVP, and then your MIP throughout the season. So who evolved the most over the season?
I would say the most evolved is Homelander. Because at the beginning, I could not really believe the amount of how crazy and psychotic he is, how complex his psychosis is. So he was just kind of this creepy superhero that obviously wasn't as good as he appeared to be. But by the end, you're when he nearly breastfeeds and there's a whole thing. And
Allie, during that scene,
girlfriend.
Allie starts yelling at the TV. Allie starts yelling at the TV during that scene. If there's breastfeeding in this show, I'm turning it off. And my answer was
adult breastfeeding. I see what you meant.
And I was like, look, in the post Game of Thrones world, there could be breastfeeding, adult breastfeeding on the show.
Because Vlad's reaction was, they didn't have the balls to really do it.
That's what I said. I was yelling at the TV, do it, breastfeed
him. And he was like, what a bunch of wimps. They didn't really have
That's what I said. That's what I said. I really wanted them to do it.
I was so glad we were spared. All right, so who's your MVP of the show, Lil?
I think Butcher. I just love every time he's on the screen. I like Huey. He's great, but he's kind of dumb still. And even though Butcher's not always right, he's so charismatic. Carl Urban is just a great character. I do find his accent changes a bit during the show.
It started off Australian. The first two episodes, he was Australian in the first two episodes.
Thank God I mentioned it because I said to Jose, oh, that's cool that he's Australian. I said, it's cool that he's Australian. That's interesting. And then halfway through the show, he says, blimey. And I'm like, wait, what?
A Cockney accent halfway. At episode 3, they made him Cockney. And I bet you anything the showrunners were like, Americans aren't going to know the difference. Just make it British. Bet you. 100% happened.
Right? Okay, that wasn't just me. And then you know what? I never mind. I often confuse Australian and British accents. I don't have the best ear for accents. And Jose was like, I'm only reading the subtitles, and I'm pretty sure he's no longer Australian. He's like, now he's British. That's weird. And I was like, wait, that's hilarious that they did that. But yeah, I find he's And then him and maybe a combination of him, MM, and Frenchie when they're together are my MVP. I know that's against the rules, but I love that combo of the three of them. And my LVP is A-Train. The worst.
All right, Beck, how about you?
My MVP is Frenchie. I think he's I like his little bit of backstory. I think he's very quirky and charming, and this is all these little every time I'm on, I'm like, oh, what new quirky thing is Frenchie gonna have for us now? What kind of weird weapons can he build or omelets can he make? So I like him. I find him very adorable. My LVP, I kind of agree, is A-Train. I actually find him the least interesting character. It it just feels the writing with him so far feels lazy. Like doesn't seem like a new character to me. A guy who's just very worried about not being the best or the fastest, so he'll go to extreme measures to make sure he is. Okay, nothing I haven't seen before. And my most evolved, I don't know that there's that much evolution. I don't know that I have one. I'd have to really think. Maybe it was like Elizabeth Shue, because I think, again, her character was not actually as straightforward as you assumed it to be. And so she ended up being a little bit more interesting than I originally expected. At first, I thought she was just afraid of Homelander, and then I realized she actually has this weird power dynamic, and then she is evil, but corporate evil, not like evil gonna actually try and murder a bunch of people evil, you know? Like, she's a little bit more interesting. That's it.
Okay. My MVP is Homelander. I love that Anthony Starr is in another show. I think the fact that he is so terrifying.
Really, MVP.
As far as the character and the actor, like Anthony Starr, who was the lead in Banshee, who played such a different character, to me, is part of what makes this all work. And otherwise, a lot of it is the same. But his whole crazy god complex and how terrifying and menacing he is, and that actor's commitment to the character, I love that he's in this, and I love him in it. My LVP, I'm gonna go with you guys, A-Train. He's the worst person in that group. Mm-hmm. I mean, Homelander's a bad guy, but A-Train like is sort of has an opportunity for choices and is still a terrible person. And then my most improved is Frenchie. When Frenchie first came on the screen, I did not like him, and now I really love him. So that's where I am with that. Okay. Why don't we all quickly say our social media stuff, and if you have any shout-outs or recommendations before we hop off, since we got to go pretty deep today, but it's time to wrap up. Lily, how about you? Where can people follow you, and do you have any recommendations?
People can follow me, Chi K Gomez. Chi K Gomez on Twitter. And my Rex, I would say, is Killing Eve season 2. I just finished it. It's a bit, weird. So you have to kind of be into that it's a bit weird and glow. I'm loving season 3.
Cool.
So that's me.
All right, Becky, where can people follow you? And
I apologize for the wind. I'm like on a mountain in Portugal. So I apologize for the wind.
So just stay on the line one more minute. You can follow me at PaperBKPrincess on Twitter, but I forgot to share some pretty huge news at the beginning of this episode. It's a big one for me, and it's that I need to give Lily. Oh, it's painful, but it's a big one. I need to give Lily an "I Told You" show, like a huge.
Oh my god, this is a historic moment.
It's a historic moment.
Oh my god,
it's the biggest news of the year. And
Fleabag. It's gonna be Fleabag.
It's an "I Told You" show for Fleabag. The first couple episodes, I was like, I don't like this character. This show's like annoying, blah blah. It's so good. I don't even know what to do with it. And the first episode of season 2, I will tell you, will go down as one of my all-time favorite half an hours of television. That, as just a capsule episode, is genius.
Did you said the last episode of season 2, right?
No, the first episode of season 2, to me, the dinner. The dinner is one of the most amazingly written, shot, and then the way it's shot throughout this like, it's so I can't even deal with it.
You finished season 2?
You talk about I finished it. You talk about character development, Shai. That is a show.
Sorry, I nodded off when you guys talked about Fleabag again.
No, trust me. The first scene of the first episode, you're like, ugh, I'm not gonna want to watch this character. So interesting how she evolves her very quickly over the course of these 2 seasons. And they don't have 2 seasons. They're doing more. They're not doing more.
I also feel like it comes from a play, like a one.
Well, she's like, this is this character's story. Her story is over. I'm not continuing the show just to make more episodes, and I respect that so much.
I also think the last episode of season 2, like the series finale, if you will, the end of the play, is brilliant.
First episode of season 2 is one of the best half hours. Yeah.
I'm so glad you liked it. I knew you would. Yeah. I knew you would. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And to tie things together, she created Killing Eve. Just to tie it together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It is true. She was the showrunner on season 1 of Killing Eve. Oh, and one more thing, guys, before we get Shai's social media, doing a little IMDbing. Guess who's going to direct or who directed an episode of The Mandalorian?
Elizabeth Banks?
Taika Waititi. He had an episode. Another reason we have to now
Wow.
watch it.
Lily and Becky, surprise ending, super all in on The Mandalorian. I went to see Blinded by the Light last night, the movie about the the Pakistani kid in London who falls in love with the music of Bruce Springsteen. It is, on one hand, a pretty straightforward coming-of-age story, tensions between generations movie. And then, on the other hand, because they incorporate not just the music of Springsteen, but they do it in these almost fanciful, creative ways, and they capture that feeling of just loving a particular artist. Like, I don't know if you went through different phases, you guys, where you just love an artist and love their poetry and they speak to you. And those moments in the movie are really, really strong when he and his friends are just enjoying it and being influenced by it. It's a funny movie in that it's probably a half hour too long, and the ending feels really rushed at the same time. So I would say, like, it's not a perfect movie, but the acting in it is off the charts. I think everyone who's in it is terrific, particularly the gentleman who plays the kid's father. He was fantastic.
Directed by the same woman that did Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh yeah, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So I would also love to give a shout out to the Take Two podcast guys. I got to co-host an episode this week, episode 149 of their main show. I got to host with Brian Stever, a friend of the podcast, a member of the Friday Night Movie family, who
I'm not jealous.
was on our All-Star Comic Con.
I didn't ask Brian to be on my podcast, so it's fine.
Anyways, if you would like a full 2 hours of Brian and me going through everything from lots of Hollywood news to Veronica Mars to even a little bit about wrestling, check out the Take Two podcast in general. I love it. And Take Two podcast episode 149, because that's the one that I got to co-host. And then last but not least, I have been watching this very it's a parody movie called The Purge of Kingdoms that our cousins actually helped produce, which is pretty cool. Galit and Eli, they helped produce. And it is definitely raunchy, super R-rated. It makes fun of Game of Thrones. If you like Game of Thrones the way I do, but also think some things in the show are just completely stupid, this really brings those stupid things to the forefront and makes them very, very funny. So I am very much enjoying it. It is definitely along the lines of, like, Not Another Teen Movie and the Meet the Spartans, like that kind of raunchy parody comedy. And it has Lou Ferrigno and Angus McFadden, who was in Braveheart, who played Robert the Bruce in Braveheart. So I've been watching that. And then last but not least, a shout out. I'm going to show this up on the camera for you guys. A shout out to my dear friend Brandon, my neighbor, my in case of emergency contact, who gave me a whole bunch of movie soundtrack vinyls from his uncle's collection, including this one of a movie called The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, which stars Dennis Quaid, father of Jack Quaid from The Boys, and the great Mark Hamill. And when I tweeted a picture of this to Mark Hamill on Twitter and asked him if he sings on this album, he responded. So Mark Hamill responded to me on Twitter because of this record. Now, it was a one-word answer where he said no, but still...
You're making progress.
Getting some Mark Hamill attention on Twitter is always a good thing. All right, you can follow me at Pancake4Table and all the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Friday Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram. And the music in our theme song is from What Does It Eat? And time to sign off. Bye, guys. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Love you. Bye.
All right, gang. Catch you later. Wait, I have a question. I have a question.
What's your question?
Two things. Number one, is V8...
How did we lose my mother-in-law in Portugal?
No. Number one is V8.
That's
is,
what I asked myself.
Is V8
8
technically
vegetables.
tomato juice?
No,
Or
it's
is it something
vegetable
else?
juice. It's vegetable juice with a tomato base.
But is there
It's
a
8
separate thing that is
vegetables.
tomato juice, or are all tomato
Yeah.
juice V8?
No.
All tomato juice is
tomato juice, and then V8 is vegetable juice that's mostly tomato based.
It has 8 vegetables in it, hence the V8.
V8 Splash is the fruit version.
Ew, nobody knows about that.
I do.
That it's the upgrade of Five Alive. Do you remember Five Alive?
Oh,
Was that only in Canada? That had like orange juice, apple juice, grape juice, pineapple, and like kiwi or something like that.
Is Sunny D still a thing?
Probably.
Yes.
And then my other question is on the tomato juice V8 front. Did you ever feel like V8 was secretly like a Canadian thing?
No. I was always on airplanes, and I feel like it was an adult drink, though. Like, I felt very adult when I would order it.